Murat is with us. So let's get back to the free agents right now, because you got a pretty extensive list. We've talked about where the Jets are cap-wise. Of the guys that are out there, when you look at this list that you rolled out in The Athletic, who would be number one on your list?
Well, you know what I would put number one on my list is a player I don't think is coming back. And that's the interesting thing. There's a lot of useful players, but Paul Stastny is still, at 36 years old, an effective hockey player. And despite his foot speeds flagging, sure, despite his advanced years by NHL standards, I mean, I'm still older than him, the impact he had, whether it was defensive conscience on Mark Scheifele's line, whether it was providing a little offense when it was with Andrew Kopp and Nikolai Ehlers, this is a guy who put up a substantial amount of points, solid for a middle six player, and his impact in possession metrics, underlying numbers. Other players were better when he was on his line, when he was on their line. And that's just responsibility and intelligence and commitment to playing the right way. That's a player I have a lot of time for as a third line player. Now, moving on from that, if you're looking for a little more offense, it's out there as well. Evan Rodrigues out of Pittsburgh. When Crosby and Malkin were both hurt last season, he played up as high as their number one center. That's not where he belongs. But he's a really good puck transporter. He's a speedy player, heads up player, can read defenses, wait just long enough to pick them apart. There's a real intelligence to his game that I like, and he's good in, solid in his own zone as well. Sonny Milano can score. I think you're getting into a little bit of territory with him where he might not be quite as productive and helpful as his abilities on the ice. I mean, he's a very skilled player, but doesn't always put it together. There are some players to go up and down that list. There's still 8 names with potential NHL ability that could help in that third or fourth line job.
Murat is with us. The article's up at The Athletic right now. There are just a couple other guys that were mentioned. Sam Steele's an interesting player. I mean, he's a first-round pick. He's a guy that I think has had a lot of potential, hasn't really been able to put it all together at an NHL level. And then, of course, Tyler Motte, who a certain 47-goal scorer knows quite well from a pretty epic line back in college. Do either of those players intrigue you for what it would cost and what they might be able to bring to the team?
Tyler Motte does, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know what level of offense he'll bring to an NHL team just now, but in terms of forecheck, in terms of energy, in terms of a really strong penalty killing player, I know that people in New York were really happy with what he brought to their team down the stretch and even in the playoffs as well. He played as high as the second line. He played a lot of penalty killing minutes. Sometimes it was fourth line, depending on how they were coordinating their minutes. But you could see a role for Tyler Motte on that third line in Winnipeg, playing big PK minutes, really being an energizer on the forecheck, hounding players, not creating a lot of offense on his own, but certainly winning pucks and throwing them at the net a little bit, helping create a little bit of chaos for other guys as well. That's a player that I like. Sam Steele, I know, former first-round pick. I think he was 30th overall once upon a time, 24 years old, a little bit young to be an unrestricted free agent. But, I mean, Anaheim was really looking at moving in a new direction. And I think, the emergence of Mason McTavish and Trevor Zegras and others, they're looking at a new generation of new players in Anaheim right now. So, I think that there's a little bit of patience required with Sam Steele at this stage in his career. His impact has not, lived up to the first round hype, but there's an NHL player there. And if a team were willing to give him a couple of years to sort of step into his own and work their way up the depth chart, maybe there's something there. I just don't think that for Winnipeg, that's a great fit, because it seems as though Winnipeg's trying to do something here and now, maybe not be a contender, but make the playoffs and hope for the best. And I think that takes more patience on the Steele front.
What do you think the future holds for Evgeny Svechnikov? And is there any chance that part of that future is back here in Winnipeg?
I haven't tended to think that he's on his way back to Winnipeg. I heard a conflicting report that his agent actually denied. He was nice enough to send a note, but that he may have actually asked the Winnipeg Jets not to qualify him. He wasn't particularly happy. Now, to be clear, his agent would know better here, and his agent says, no, that's not the case. But I do get the sense either way that the up and down treatment for a player who's so confidence based and really his emotions lead the way was not his favorite scenario last year. And certainly if he runs out of opportunities in other places and Winnipeg's willing to give him one, great. but I'm not sure that we see Evgeny Svechnikov 2.0 here in Winnipeg. Could that mean, overseas? I'm not sure. Could that mean, one of these many teams that could still use a little bit of help? I actually don't know what the latest on his future would be. I just haven't tended to think it's in Winnipeg.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was pretty clear. And the fact that we're now into August, I mean, if they wanted to recircle back at a reasonable rate, it probably would have happened already. I'm not quite sure with that.